casket for the ether. The second statement is I have one piece with on the bottom. Down to the side
Hey guys, welcome to Real Triad Reviews. I'm Mr. Snidbits, and with me today, as always, is Black Girl Marvel and Mr. Marvelite. And we are going to be talking movies and TV shows as usual, so this should be fun. Everybody get adjusted quickly. I'm kidding, of course. How are you guys doing this week? I know that Mr. Marvelite's been having some things going on, so how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm out of frame again.
It's okay. Go ahead and just
I'm
do
just
your
so
best.
messed up.
It's okay.
Okay.
We only
That's
have
not the way to go.
we only have 5 or 10 viewers. It's not a big deal. Don't stress it. No, you guys are good right there. You're looking good. That looks really good. Both of you, perfect. Okay, loving it. Right. Okay. So tonight on Real Triad Reviews, we will be reviewing, like I said, TV shows, 2 of them, as well as the movie The Tomorrow War with Chris Pratt. Of course, this just came out this week, and we got to thank Mr. Marvelite for bringing this to our attention and saying we should watch this one because we like getting up on the newest movies if possible. Not always possible.
Well, don't thank me unless you enjoyed it.
No. Thank you for bringing a new movie to our attention in general so that we can all see if we enjoy it because it's the experience. I wish we could experience it together, but that's a whole nother thing, isn't it? So, Lala, how are you doing tonight?
Light headache, but I will make it through.
I hear you. It's been an interesting day for me. A very interesting day, nonetheless. But I'm here. Okay, so we're gonna go right into Tomorrow War, I think, and then we'll move over to the TV shows. I think we'll go Tomorrow War, Invincible, and then of course end with Loki because that way people can enjoy and view and watch the show without having those spoilers if they haven't caught the show. That's most important to them. So let's roll right into it. I think since we don't have any clue what Lala has to say about this movie, and both Mr. Marvelite and I both have a rough clue of each other's idea, let's see what Lala thinks of Tomorrow War. What was your general first take?
Didn't even hear you.
First take. Oh, it was too long. That was my first take.
It was too long.
It was very long. It was 2 hours and 17 minutes. Especially for something new, that was like very long. I was like, Lord have mercy. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it's kind of a new take on like time travel in a sense. I said this movie was War of the Worlds and Terminator 2 put together.
Okay.
Because that's what it seemed like to me. But I felt like they handled it very well. I'm already obsessed with J.K. Simmons, and this just solidified it. So,
absolutely.
He was very zaddy-like in this. I loved it. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. I called out some things that I thought would happen, and they actually happened. So I was kind of proud of myself for that. But I didn't think it was a bad film at all. It was just a little long for my liking. I was like, y'all could have shaved like 15 minutes off. I'm sure you could have. Could have shaved like 15. But other than that, I thought it was good.
I'm going to keep holding my tongue, Marvelite, if you'd like to go now.
So it was interesting. I was looking on TikTok because like after I watched the film and I told you guys about watching it, I was looking at the TikTok videos for Amazon Prime where they were trying to promote it. And what was really interesting was a lot of people in the comments were talking about Live, Die, and Repeat, which I do not feel this film has anything to do with that, except for the monster almost is slightly similar, except for there's not that whole, they can, there's a specific creature, one of the aliens that has the ability that if you kill it, it goes back in time and can undo its, problems. And we didn't have that same issue. I think it was very straightforward. I liked how they touched on time travel, where they basically have the two beacons and they're like rafts moving through time. And so they couldn't go to an earlier time, which would almost it would have been like an easy out for this story, because it's talking about more of a linear time and not like the MCU, space conundrum that even the writers and the directors can't get right with each other. And we have an entire, Disney Plus show that's trying to undo, all of our misconceptions about the timeline. But so you have this, and again, spoilers, if you haven't seen the film, I highly recommend you watching it, whether you're swayed more by, a positive view from this or a negative. I think anytime you watch a movie, you should always go to your own opinion and come to it. But I liked how, they kind of clipped some like loose ends that they started at the beginning of the film for me. They wouldn't tell him why he died, because basically the idea is, in time you couldn't go forward in time if there was another version of you in that timeline, because it could cause a paradox and basically collapse time itself. Which even Back to the Future touched on, when you couldn't really get close and interact with your present selves. And then and there was I was like curious as to why they wouldn't tell him how he died, because it seemed like he was the only character that did know how he died, because the guy who knew he was going to die of cancer knew he was going to die of cancer. And then you find out that he was specifically selected to be a part of this for a specific purpose.
I might argue there, Tony, that maybe because he was on his third tour, they told him second time around.
Well, we never know. It's one of those things, but
it's possible.
But it's kind of interesting, because like with him, he like there were loose ends. Like, why weren't they telling him anything? Why he thought he was in there to be tested to see if he was eligible for the draft, but he was being drafted. He just didn't know it, and it seemed very surprising. As to,
and fascist.
Very fascist. And at first I thought, when I first started watching the film, that the people who came from the future, that there was no real monster, that it was actually something that the future, the people from the future were harvesting these people for some reason.
Right.
You also then find, with any type of like hive type creature, when you talk about like the like we've seen aliens in like Avengers films and stuff, it's almost kind of like they're throwaway.
Mm-hmm.
And at first I thought that these characters,
like the Chitauri.
aliens, the Chitauri, and then what was the other group? The
Space Dogs?
well, it was in Endgame or Infinity War.
The four-legged, two-armed. Yeah.
And then all the Ultrons in Age of Ultron.
You are coming through only barely a little bit there, Lala. Sorry.
That's weird. Okay, go ahead.
So what I found was interesting was the creatures had more character once she found the female. The female seemed to be the one that was all intelligent. I mean, they were all pretty crafty in how they were, killing people, but she was the big bad. And I got that Queen Alien type vibe with her.
She obviously was the one that flew their ship too, because I don't buy any of the worker bee types doing it.
Well, no, they actually showed that there were.
No, that's right.
There were other aliens that were flying. Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
But then there's like a couple plot holes for me. But at the same time, like I felt like it was a much cleaner movie than like Live, Die, Repeat. Especially any of the recent Terminator films, where they gave like a real idea of how things could work, and even the little Easter eggs that they had put at the beginning of the film, where the kid that was focused on volcanic activity and stuff like that, it all kind of worked in together. And they gave like even the coward guy from the future, they gave him a redemptive moment throughout it, and I didn't think it was too long. I actually thought it was kind of a good time frame, because I felt like if they would have like ended it where they did, where he got sent back in time and then that was the end of it, and then all of a sudden, he chose to be better. That kind of like ruined the whole purpose of it. But they had
Agreed.
like an additional storyline that kind of went back into the past, which I thought was great. And I felt like there had to have been something where he went back to his father, the J.K. Simmons character, where he saw what he could become, and so he was able to earn that, forgiveness for his father too. But I liked the film. I liked it a lot. I watched it twice consecutively.
Nice.
And I really did like the aliens in this one. Like, there's a lot of times I don't like the aliens, and I really like them. So, of course, the name, the White Spikes, was a really stupid name.
The
I'll
name
just
was
say that.
really bad, and they. Okay, so I'm gonna now give my take, which was very, very different than both Lala and Tony. I did not like this movie. I didn't find very many redeeming qualities for it. What was that?
I love that you don't like it.
You do?
It's nice to have a dissenting opinion.
Yes, it really is. I love it so much, but continue.
Okay, so I actually took notes on this one because I thought I'd at least be fair and take real notes. So I have notes. And so I literally did good and bad. Like, I did a pros cons list essentially. And the unfortunate part is the good list has 2 items and the bad list has the rest. And that's how I made my decision at the end. So what would you like first? The good or the bad?
Do whatever.
Lala, do you have a preference?
Let's start with the bad.
I want the good first.
Oh no. Okay. I asked Lala. She said the good. Okay. So I agree with you on the aliens. I think the aliens were nice and creepy. They were very fast. Fast aliens are creepier than most. And the faster they are, but you have to have it with, there has to be some within reason. And it felt like you could get away from these. But at the same time, some of the people that got away from them, I'm like, they would show the alien and it would run really fast. And then they'd cut to the human and you're like, okay, it'll be in frame literally any second now. And you're like, no. And then the person gets away. Those are the kinds of things in movies. I had the same problem with like the Godzilla King Kong movies where the too close for comfort trope has gotten way, way overdone to the point where they'll make it miss you by like a millisecond or like a milli-inch or something, or milli-inch. Wow. I'm just going to add words from Europe and America together now. But everything just kind of skims by you. This movie was loaded with that. And the aliens were great, but they started to get weaker as the movie went on, and weaker and weaker and weaker. The average lady, like the lady that was going with them, and then the kind of bigger dude like me that was in the movie, those characters were my favorite 2 characters in the whole film because they were playing against the typical trope where they actually stopped and became heroes for the first time. Usually they're just fodder for everybody. They just get eaten. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I saw the big guy with the beard. I'm like, he's toast. He's getting eaten. And he did, but not on the terms I expected. I expected him to get eaten just because he was the slow guy on the stairwell or something, but that's not what happened. So those are the things I thought were good. And I think what I'll do is pick apart the rest as we go without having to just take the floor and rail against the whole film, because that's literally what would be left. So I will I want to
hear this.
You do want to hear it?
I want to hear it.
So Chris Pratt, normal guy, except not. We already, like, for whatever reason, he just doesn't exude normal guy when you see him at the beginning of the movie. And I'm like, I like that they try to set up this average American dude, teacher, but they jumped through the backstory in a montage that was the most ridiculous thing. These people from the future show up, and now the whole world is okay with a worldwide draft and it being a fascist government just overnight because people from the future said so. I couldn't buy into that with a montage. Like, I needed more exposition to explain why the world would turn so quickly from these 25 people that show up at a soccer arena. Did the president and others go forward in time to see if it was true? Do we just have to assume that? They never cover it. So right away, I'm like, okay, real simple plot, which is fine. Like, Terminator's not wildly plot heavy, so I shouldn't get too offended. But it starts off like that, and then I think it just kind of goes downhill after J.K. Simmons. You see him the first time, you're like, oh, this movie's going to go somewhere, and then you don't see him till the end. You agree? You said that, Marvel. You said that was not your favorite part, that you wished he would have been there.
Yeah, I wish there would have been a lot more J.K. Simmons. And then I had this thing that was like, why does Chris Pratt always play a guy that has daddy issues?
Because he does have daddy issues. I
Well,
mean,
his daddy-in-law is
said,
Schwarzenegger now, so it would make sense that you do a back in time or future show.
yeah.
recorded myself watching this or whatever. And I said that this movie seemed like if Star-Lord never got beamed up by Yandu.
Yeah.
So like I feel like Star-Lord on Earth, if his mama died and he still lived and this happened on Earth. Because honestly, nothing that Chris Pratt does, this is gonna sound really mean, and I don't mean any disrespect or anything like that. But nothing he does seems like it takes a lot of work. I think the most that he does takes a lot of work is to get his body in shape. I think a lot of his roles are very straightforward. There's not a lot of levels to his roles. And just to touch a little bit on what Snitty talked about, it was just odd. Like I know he got fired from a job in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like a really, I guess like a high paying, like he was like this highfalutin like scientist. And then when it came back, he was just like a run of the mill teacher all of a sudden.
Well, in the film, it actually the idea is he's a teacher, and he's trying to take his education to some type of a government project, and he was in the final running. That's why he was doing the meeting during the Christmas party. He's trying to he's like in the final cut, and they basically told him in that final call, "Yo, Muncie, thanks for being on and happy 4th."
Hey, happy 4th of July.
But while he's on the call, they basically say we found somebody better. So they basically cut him out of the running. He never really had the job. He just never got it. He's like an ex-vet who used his GI Bill to become a scientist, wanted to do something better than being a science teacher, and that was the last chance. That was like the most latest chance that he lost out on, and he feels like he's meant to do something greater, but you know, his daughter's the one that tells him everything's going to be okay.
Don't we all? And do we all leave our families because of that? No.
Okay, why do I feel like I'm like Patrick Swayze from Ghost right now? Like I literally feel like I'm just whitewashing. Like
oh yes, it is happening. That is really weird. At first I was like, wait, are we ventriloquisting you? What's going on? I didn't understand.
I mean, well, this is the difference from the other time you were like turning red for some reason.
I know. It's like I was turning negative. I was turning to Mr. Negative. It's like I feel like I should be doing pottery right now with Demi Moore.
Where is she? What are you doing? You should be doing pottery.
I'm trying to figure out if I need to turn a light off or something in here.
No, it's weird. It's the feed between something's happening between Discord and Streamlabs because I look at Discord and you look fine. And man, you are sitting way on one side. That's weird. We're gonna have to figure that out. That's okay. We can let Black Girl Marva just sing, and we could just kick back. I think that'd be great.
Yes.
So,
but I do like the aliens,
go ahead.
though. I just want to put that out there. I do like the aliens. I like the design of them. I like that they don't look like the typical. Like people love making aliens very humanoid. And I love that they look like they came from somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I love that they were like pale white, invisible at times. Because my thing were like my whole thing was, could they be invisible? Like, could they turn invisible? I was very confused on that. It was like, at one moment they could, and in another moment it was just like they couldn't. Like, I was very confused on that because it was a point where like
the guy was seeing it, but the girl couldn't.
Yeah, she was like, "Where?" And he's like, "You don't see it."
That's the white spikes part of it, is that they blend into the whiteness that is the kind of that the smoke and the dust and the other things that are in the city.
That's the case, they were in Antarctica or Russia. They should have never seen the mother.
I know, and we're gonna get into that.
So that's a thing for me too. Like but I kind of let that go. Like I kind of jumped about a wayside. I'm like, okay, well that's fine. Maybe they had an idea and they dropped it midpoint and they just didn't really carry it on. But I like the design of them. I like that they weren't stupid.
Yeah.
I like that when he rushed him with the axe, he like ducked. He moved out of the way.
See,
because he saw something coming. Like I actually enjoyed that.
I didn't mind most of the fighting in the stairwell. I didn't mind most of the fighting with the creatures up until they get out in the street, and then from then on, it bugged the crap out of me because then they're in the wide open, and these
And
things
they were
move
faster.
fast,
Yeah.
like fat. And all of a sudden, Chris Pratt's got an SMG and a pistol, and he's taking on 10 and 12 of these things. Like that started to bug me. And then, okay, this is a few big spoiler, Muncie, if you haven't seen this movie, but this is huge. Dude, like in the hallway, just him and one of them with the axe at the last minute. He's already damaged a lot. Okay, hand to hand, I can handle that. But at the end, he hand to hands the queen. I mean, literally, what the fuck? Like, I mean, that's how upset I am about that. What?
She was blind, though. She was blind at that point.
But no, they got up and close and personal with these things far too often. They're trying to put the queen in the cage. They were like, it became one of those too close for comfort too often for me to care. I never laughed once at any of the jokes. Like I felt the movie just hit flat. This movie was so flat. It was like a flat line on a EKG meter. Like I was disappointed.
I like the jokes. I actually wanted more jokes.
Yeah.
But I know sometimes like you put too many jokes into a movie, it can change the whole tone of a movie. It goes from being like kind of serious action to like a action comedy, and they probably didn't want that. So the jokes that they did put in did hit because I like the actor. The actor that played Charlie. I can never remember his name. Say my name. I want to say it's like Sam Huntington. It's something. It's Sam. I think it's Sam's. I don't know. But he has a particular way of delivering jokes that I enjoy, so I didn't have a problem with him. My whole thing was, for me, he was like the heart. I'm assuming that they wanted like
was he the scientist?
Yeah, he was
I felt like he was a little bit of a knockoff of Tracy Cooper, though. Or Tracy Morgan. I'm sorry, Tracy Morgan.
Tracy Morgan. I didn't feel that at all. They're
like
just
that whole talky part right before they jumped. That I felt like that was like Tracy Morgan vibes.
That's the one part of the movie I related to. I literally was like, "That's me if we're going to die." Like I would talk that much and interrupt. And I love that he interrupted it. They didn't get to hear the information. I was like, "Oh shit, that's real."
He was like, "I missed all of that," and I was like, "That's hilarious."
I don't know.
All his going down the stairs. That's just real life.
Now, I think he should. I did like the oh shits, but he should have died there because again, that thing was too fast. He was moving at like a snail's pace in a like a side scoot the whole time, and those aliens are coming down through the stair. I don't know. I know it's a movie. I know I'm supposed to suspend my disbelief, but
I'm just saying though, he was shooting as well, so it's kind of like even though he's moving, he's shooting and getting shot, so he's making his way. Also, Chris Pratt was kind of like Chris Pratt should have died before he did, technically, because he was taking like right behind him. So,
and it also is interesting. You don't ever see them really changing ammo. Like they don't reload.
Never.
They're always switching guns, but you never see them reload. And I know there's a point of contention for a lot of people online after I watched the movie that there is an exorbitant amount of ammunition that is let off in this film. Like they use a lot of ammo.
Oh, I bet.
And I mean, but like even like the film itself, like they're expending a lot of ammo, but you really don't see a whole lot of practical reloading or anything like that. I mean, they just have lots of big guns all the time. So
let's see. We've got.
Now you're making me see plot holes, but I still liked it.
No. And again, there are movies. Marvelite. We're going to talk about movies. You can actually ask Lala. We reviewed a movie that's one of my all-time favorite movies, and everybody hates it. Do you remember which one that is, Lala?
No.
We did the video game movies, and we had Cole on that evening with us. It was I think it was your first night. Need for Speed.
Oh yeah, Need for Speed. Yeah.
That movie is awful and has so many plot holes and has got some canned drama and all sorts of bad problems. And I will defend it till I will die on that hill. So I understand if somebody loves this movie. I'm just trying to be upfront about how I feel. But we will always find plot holes, even in Loki, even in the stuff that we love. We're going to find those plot holes. For those that don't know, there's a huge plot hole in the Jurassic Park movie. Huge plot hole. You guys want to hear it?
Go for it. I probably already know, but
probably. I think everybody does. But this was one that drove me nuts for years before there was an internet. The T-Rex, comes out of the T-Rex pen to attack the two vehicles, and then they escape back into the T-Rex pen down a cliff that's like 400 feet down that was magically not there a minute ago. That That's a big plot hole to me.
I actually have a solution
Uh-oh.
for this one, and it's not a plot hole.
Oh, let's hear it.
If you go, and this is just a suggestion, this is not like a big thing. If you are a fan of the Jurassic Park franchise, like before Lost World, Jurassic Park 3, which I don't believe exists, or the Jurassic World stuff, there is a game off, I think it's called the Cryogen Engine, that you can download online for free called Jurassic Dream. And literally, it's this guy who, for like the last like 5 or 6 years, recreated Isla Nublar, and like to the point of where you start off at the helipad, and you can get into Jeep and actually drive through. You can see where the Brachiosaur was.
So you go through that little cliff area, like in the creek area, and then to the Brachiosaur, and then
you
seen
can.
that movie
I mean,
too many
literally,
times.
like there's like you. I mean, it shows where things like physically would be, and like the guy mapped everything out. So in the Tyrannosaur paddock, when you first pull up, when they pull up toward right where between where Lex and Tim's Jeep is and Alan and Ian Malcolm's Jeep, it's all flat land there. That's where the goat was baited out and everything else, and it's all trees.
Wait, when you say goat, you mean a real goat, not the T-Rex, right?
Yeah, the real goat that's put out there. Yes, I got you. And so the fencing is broken right there between the Jeeps.
Right.
And then if you look, and literally, when I did the game, you get out of the Jeep and you look right from that point, just probably about maybe 20 or 30 meters from where the T-Rex exited the paddock. There's actually a drop down. It's kind of like a moat, and there's that tree that's right there.
Right.
And so when the T-Rex pushes Tim and Lex's vehicle, he doesn't pull it perpendicular to the fence. He pulls it forward and to the fence. And so when he pushes it over, it literally catches on the fence, and there is a drop down that goes over. And you kind of get an idea when they're coming out from when Ellie and Muldoon are coming out after they go down and look at the Jeep where it's been destroyed. And basically, there's like a retaining wall there where the hole was where Lex hid, and it makes perfect sense when you see it in that space. So it makes sense to me that they like, because what they would do is, if they're doing a retaining wall where there's an area where goes to the next pin, for the T-Rex, it's smarter to have like a drop down like you would have like for a lion or whatever else, that would prevent the T-Rex from wanting to kind of go over and try to encroach on another fence. Because if it sees prey, and I think based off of the game, after the T-Rex paddock, I think there's either Parasaurolophus or Stegosaurus, which we don't get to see in the film. So it would make sense to not have a predator with just a fence between it and prey, because then it would run into like trees or whatever else and try to find some way to break the barrier.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
that does make sense. I don't know if I believe it. I'll look into it without a doubt. That sounds pretty interesting.
It's a cool game. There's no dinosaurs in it. It's just all of the park.
But still, my wife would love that. She's huge into Jurassic Park, probably at the level you are, which is pretty cool. So plot holes. We now agree that there are plot holes in everything. Let me go back to, we were going to talk about some of the actors we were trying to confirm. You said Sam Richardson. Absolutely. We also have J.K. Simmons, Yvonne Strahovski, and Yvonne Strahovski is the girl I know from Dexter primarily, as Dexter's girlfriend in later seasons. And then we had, let's see, anybody else stick out? Oh, yeah, Mary Lynn. Oh, I never can say her last name. Mary Lynn Rajskub, I think is how you would say her last name. Anyway, I got to actually see her on TikTok, which was cool. But she was the lady, and then Mike Mitchell was the big guy with the beard that sacrificed themselves. So not a ton of known actors, but a couple known actors.
But I don't like that though. Give me some faces I ain't seen before. Okay, you will give me the lead. Will be somebody that I've seen before. 9 times out of 10, they're going to be an MCU person because that's all they're giving us nowadays. That's no offense to nobody or anything like that. But I love that we're getting some more new faces in these like bigger budget films. Like,
agreed.
Yeah,
I'm just loving it because seeing the same faces, man, it makes you not want to go to the movie sometimes.
No, agreed. So generally this movie gets a 6.7 on IMDb, which is usually the way I look at things. I don't generally go with Rotten Tomatoes. I like IMDb because it's what we all said we think rather than the critics.
Right.
Not that I don't care what the critics say. But as far as going back to the film and some more of the issues I had with it, because maybe that'll spark some conversation, the creature cam for a moment there really bugged me. Like, if you're going to do it, do it. If you're not going to do it, don't do it. But don't do it once on one moment at one corner. I didn't understand the reasoning behind that. This movie kept trying to use these different techniques that it didn't need to use to be something more than it was. And that felt kind of pushed.
No, it's Paramount.
There's a moment where when they're on the oil rig, and they're already escaping, they're trying to get to the time jump. The Queen is after them because it's already broken out, and they've had their 2.5 minutes of downtime with fire and death and destruction all around them, so they can have a heart to heart. I think this movie just had every trope I hate in it, is really what it boils down to. They just lined up all the tropes I dislike all in a row and went, look, a good movie. And I went, oh, if you had just put in every other trope, I probably would have really liked this movie. I didn't like, this is the thing I think that bothers me the most about the film. I did not enjoy the fact that this dude was so hung up on his future daughter. He was literally willing to kill the entire planet to save her life.
Yes.
Literally. He jumped off the platform after her, but by happenstance, he got sucked to the past. So then he decided to change. This dude is a piece of shit. Like, I do not like that character. He didn't change because he had to. He just changed because he didn't have a choice. He changed because he got back to the real world and went, oh, my future daughter, who I kind of sort of weirdly fucking fell for or whatever. Because he had this weirdness about her. He was so hung up on her and forgot. I have a 9-year-old daughter in the past that I can go back to and actually be a father to, but he was more hung up on future her, who isn't even real, because when he goes back and saves them, anyway, they didn't. How can you be in a time travel movie and not know about time travel? That's just me.
No, I agree. I was going to bring that up if you didn't. That was the thing where he's like, I'm going to get it matched with Bruce, and I'm going to come back. Come back to what, sir? They already bombed, like, Miami. There's no telling what other places they've bombed, and now a swarm of them are at this place. You're not coming back. Your daughter knew that you weren't coming back. That's why she wanted you to go and fix this. And I can agree. Like, I was a little annoyed by the fact that he kept trying to save, like, a daughter that technically doesn't exist for like another 30 years.
If at all.
So to me, that just didn't make sense. And then it was like, she gave you all the keys and tools you needed, so when you went back, you wouldn't have turned it to your father. Because I thought about it. I was like, oh, okay, so what happened was he was in this world. He got close to his daughter. She died. So when he came back, he was very messed up. And by him being messed up, all this stuff happened to where, like, him and the wife got separated, and then finally they divorced. And then this is what led to her becoming who she is, not knowing her father, him getting into a car accident. Like, I realized that when he came back and he was like all distraught and he was very cold towards his wife for a little bit. But part of me is like, she told you what happened essentially. She told you what isolated you. Listen, you didn't know. If I could connect the dots as an audience member, you should be able to connect the dots as a person who lived it, right? To figure out that this is what made you disconnect from your family because you watched a version of your daughter die and, like, it messed you up, right? And then it, like, messed you up, so, like, now you couldn't really look at her when she was a kid and all kind of stuff. Like, I figured that all that out, and he couldn't figure that out. It was up to his wife kind of being like, them having a conversation and her being like, well, why can't you just, like, stop it now? Like, you know what I mean? It's like one of those things where it's like, you literally have the cure and this is going to happen in 30 years. Do something about it. It just took too much for him to do something about it for me.
Right. No, it literally, you're completely right. The daughter that he supposedly knows in the future is only because of his bad decisions. Like, she wouldn't be a 5-time PhD and saving the world with the exact perfect degree for it, by the way, which I hate. She literally was like, look, I have exactly the perfect degree to save the world. Weird.
No, but they said, but see, that didn't bother me because they set that up in the beginning where she was like, do you know who created, like, you know, the polio vaccine or whatever, like all that jazz? Like, she was already into, and then when she was digging in the ground, she was like, I'm looking for a vaccine. Like, they pretty much set that up, so I let that go.
I know, but it's easy to set it up. I don't know. Go ahead.
Movie, it's best to make sure that any hole that they opened, they plugged. And I noticed that. Like when they were towards the end, I was like, they were like, what kind of volcano? I was like, the little kids coming back from the beginning that was obsessed with volcanoes. Like they were plugging every hole.
He literally knew exactly the right people to make this plan work perfectly.
And they were all connected to him. For me, this should have been like more of a prophecy type of movie, where like he was the chosen one, and then it would make sense that he knew all the right people to gather and get. Because, like, not to say that I didn't enjoy it, but I do enjoy that they wanted to plug everything. A lot of people let a lot of stuff fall by the wayside, and you don't get like a full roundness. And for me, I thoroughly appreciated it. I was like, yes, let's call in everybody. Let's clean all this up. Because you're leaving a lot open, and if you don't do that, it's not gonna be a good movie for me. And it was a good movie, but I'm happy that they plugged everything. Though I was happy about it. I saw it coming, but I was happy. Look at Marvelite. I am
too. I'm waiting. Go ahead, Marvelite.
What did I get?
No, I completely understand, and I see. I think this is where you get with movies. You have to have the ability to kind of disconnect yourself from the unbelievability of certain things. Like, certain things are going to happen. In some cases, when you know it's going to happen, it makes you feel good about it because you can kind of pat yourself on the back. Like, I could have written this film. And then you have, those moments where it's just like, oh, they're going to do this again. And it gets to that point. And I get that there are things. And since I've already been the protagonist of being, for the film, let me just say this. There are things that really bother me. First of all, how in the world is that girl going to hold against her past father, who has done none of the things that traumatized her, for what he hasn't done yet? Basically, in telling him, she knows that she's going to change the past. Then at the same time, we do find that this time travel is not the kind of time travel that, as you affect things in real time, that it affects the future or whatever. Because in the moment that he made the decision that he was going to be different, I almost feel like there would have been a paradox, because then he may have existed at that point in time. But again, at the same time, when they went back in time to deal with, getting people to help them, they created a branch timeline. And I know we're going into the whole Loki, realm and stuff, but I mean, you think about, so my thought kept being this: they're going back in time and taking the older people so that they can fight in the future, because there weren't enough people in their timeline, because they already took all the people to go to the future. And then what happens to all the people that would have fought if those older people wouldn't have been allowed to have more kids? And you have this whole, there's this, it just kind of goes round and round.
That was a flaw in their plan anyway, because you're taking people that have already died, but you're taking older people that have no training, don't know how to hold a gun, don't know how to reload, that are scared out of their minds,
and aren't going to be told. They don't tell them.
Because
the numbers are distractions.
The war. Like, yeah. I get why you guys are losing. Come on.
Okay, so
and then.
Sorry, I wish Salty Dog was here. I was hoping and I was waiting to make this point until maybe he showed up tonight. But the plot point about the time travel in this film is literally lifted right out of a different film called Primer. It is literally the same concept of traveling between 2 points in time, back and forth only, because they can only move together in time. It's literally the same premise, except this movie had a budget. And that movie was made by engineers with no budget. So if you liked the concept of the time travel in this movie, go check out Primer.
Then the other thing was, when they finally went to go do the toxin with the aliens, I'm sorry, did you not notice how there was one hive casing that was larger than the rest? that could possibly be the big mother, that you want to just kill that one first, because obviously she was the more intelligent and more dangerous of the species.
Or try to kill them all faster instead of standing around waiting.
Yeah, like waiting for those three, and then all of a sudden everybody's starting to notice that they're opening up. That part irritated me too. It was a line behind them. I would have stuck those and then turned around, stuck those.
Right, just stick everything as quickly as you can. What are you waiting for?
Stick them and run. Stick them and run.
Right.
The thing was 100%. Like, it said 100%. So that means that this works. Like, come on, you guys.
But they stood there and were like, "Ooh, is it working?" There were several people that didn't make it off that ship when it exploded. I thought that was it wasn't just one; it was several
It
people.
was just the 3 of them that were left. All of the future people died.
Right. How
Yeah.
convenient. And then that fight was the 15 minutes that could have been cut, Lala. That fight with the queen did not need to exist. They could have just cut
I'm
that
sorry,
whole
but
thing.
I loved how they once again at that. The one thing that I really liked that scene was when he injected her with the toxin,
And she
and
bit her.
the appendage started to disintegrate, and she bit her arm off. Like it just
I love
proved
it.
that she was intelligent again. I liked that. I'm sorry. You could
No,
you could
that's
feel
my
what
part.
you
I love that
feel.
part.
I have
I'm
it
looking at
written right
Steve.
there. I have it written right there.
I literally liked that because it showed that she was intelligent. And honestly, one thing I will say, when they mentioned the idea that these were possibly like world-ending creatures and that they did not mean to land on Earth, they did open up. Well, it's 6.7 on IMDb. We may never not see it a sequel or whatever, but they're opened up that if these things were used as weapons, then we could possibly see them again in another movie.
Or their owners, the people that use these weapons, right? To kill things, because they're basically like okay. So this movie was a knockoff Alien, Terminator, Michael Bay movie.
Well, it was Paramount, so
I mean that's quite
Michael Bay
literally
thing's
what it is.
right down the road.
Let's see. Let me see if I wrote anything else I really want to cover. If he saves the world in the past, Miri won't die in the future. Duh. Wrote that down way early. Creature cam.
This
Go
gave me
ahead.
like Nora Flash vibes. Like how Nora was super mad at Iris when she came back to the past, and it was just like, "Honey, why are you mad at me? I didn't do any of these things.
Oh,
Like, I haven't done any of these things yet." It gave me some vibes. But also it's like, this is what I don't think she understood either. Right? You requested him. So you are the reason for your own sadness.
right.
Because if you didn't request him, he probably wouldn't have got drafted.
No, he wouldn't.
And then he wouldn't have went there. He wouldn't have went through all this, came back traumatized from your death. So you are the architect of your own sadness.
Agreed.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Of course.
What if all of that was a lie?
What do you
What
mean?
if he didn't? What if he didn't abandon her? What if he died in fighting with her as she was older? That the only way that she knew that he would go back in time and use the toxin to stop this was to lie to him, because that's why they kept his future from him. He never died in a car accident.
She did say stay in the chopper.
Yeah, because my thing was, why would she worry about him staying in the chopper if she knew that he died in a car accident?
Well, he can't die and go back in time.
She wanted him to take the toxin back, because she had a if the devil's advocate that you're doing, but it doesn't for me.
No, think about it. If he would have died in the future, he would have never come back and abandoned his family. He would have never died in a car accident. So basically, based off of what she said, if he knows he's going to die in a car accident in the future, anything that he does is basically, the decision he makes. But she intends to protect him for what purpose? Because he can die, because that's not the truth. That's not the future.
No, but I feel like that's a future, because that's a future for her that happened. But by him being there, it already changes his future. Especially when she tells him. That's why nobody told him like what happened. Nobody told him how he died. But the moment she told him how he died, it changed his future immediately.
I mean, that's gonna happen.
It happened or not, but that's what happened. But I don't know. She's the architect of her own sadness, though. I don't care what nobody say. She's the architect of her own sadness.
So
I think they lied to him. I think it was a big lie.
I don't think it was a lie. I feel like she had an agenda. The moment when she figured out that the mother was what she was, and this was off screen that she found this out, because we didn't find out about the mother until he found out about the mother. All that type of stuff. When she found out, she was already kind of. She needed the mother's DNA to fully realize, like the whatever she's trying to create, because she already created something that killed the males, but she couldn't create anything that killed like the female. So she already had an idea, and then I think that idea sparked it, where she was like, the only person that I can trust to go back, because this world is a wash now, but the only person that I can trust is my father, and she got him drafted. Because when he got drafted, they were like, and they were very stern. They didn't say anything because they were like under her command so tough. I think she set up in motion for her father to be there so he can take the toxin back, like how the movie planned it. But what they don't really tap on is that she drafted him, and he died because of her.
And lied about his future. And then when he went, and they used the lie about how he dies and that he abandoned his family because she knew that was a touchy point because of him and his grandfather, or her grandfather. That was the motivation for him to go back and undo the past.
Interesting. No, Lala, what were you going to say?
No, I would just say I don't know, because I don't know why. Like, why is he so special?
Because he's Chris Pratt.
Because his name's at the top of the thing before
the billing. Yeah, that's exactly right. When you're Indiana Jones, you get to roll 20s and escape nuclear blasts in refrigerators. That's how that works. See, it drives me nuts that people don't have problems with movies like this, but then they get mad when Indiana Jones does that. I'm like, dude, what's wrong with that? Like, that's Indiana Jones. He can outrun boulders. He can do anything. What's the problem? Okay, that aside.
Your whole childhood.
Yeah, but you know what? Ever since I watched Big Bang Theory, they ruined Raiders of the Lost Ark for me. Like, I've always had a hard time watching that movie again.
Yeah, they were like,
yeah, but it's about the hero, not about the journey.
You take him out of that film, it'll still end the same way.
It's okay.
Listen, I look at a lot of things like that now. I'm like, and that's how I like trim the fat off of movies for the most part, or like anything. I'll be like, who is irrelevant in what I'm watching?
Most characters.
Who could they have moved that if these series of events still happen, like nothing would have changed? And there are a few movies like that. Like there are a few movies like that.
But you know, honestly, movies, it's okay for movies to have plot holes and you can still enjoy them. Now, because it's been years since I've watched it, but Master of Disguise with Dana Carvey.
Am I turtly for your turtle club?
Yes, that movie has so many plot holes, and they're like blatant. Like they almost did it on purpose to be how bad it is. Like when you go back and look, and if you have a resemblance of liking that film, I dare you to go back and watch the deleted scenes and then watch the film again, and you can literally see where they were going in the direction of the deleted scene, and then all of a sudden they said, we're going to change it, and you're sitting there like they never finished that plot hole, and it's frustrating, but it was still a fun film at the time. I like Ready Player One.
Film, nobody's looking for continuity. I'm just saying.
In comedy, I don't care if there's continuity. I just want to laugh. That's all I want. It's literally with an adventure movie, I want to feel like, oh. With an action movie, I want to go, whoa. And that's why I don't get mad. But when it's a sci-fi movie, there's a bar, man. And it's, Kubrick and Ridley Scott and others have set that bar pretty freaking high. And when you come in with an Independence Day ripoff, with a Terminator ripoff, it doesn't feel good. It just feels like, oh, look, they put 12 movies together like Lucas did, but didn't package it very well.
Muncie said Big Bang was wrong about that plot hole.
Agree to disagree, Muncie.
Have you been watching?
I spent many sleepless nights watching that thing and thinking about what they said in that Big Bang Theory.
Have you guys been watching his TikToks, Muncie's?
Yes.
Oh yeah, me too. He's doing great. He's getting more confident. Like I saw him in those first few where he was like I was very reserved, and now he's killing it. I love it. Sorry, I'm just excited to see other TikTokers coming over to Twitch.
Blossom, you're blossoming my flower.
So a couple other things. When he hit her with a snowmobile, I didn't like that. I did find the fight to be unrealistic. The only good part about the entire fight was the J.K. Simmons fake out. I liked that part. And then my literal take from the final end of the film was it took billions of people to die for the dude to find out he didn't want to leave his daughter.
I feel like that's an oversimplification, but I'll let you have it. That's fine.
Well. Think of it this way. This did gonna give me a headache, and I think I'm rephrasing what Cindy just said. All of those millions of people or thousands of people, whatever, went to the future, to fight and die in a war that will now never happen.
Yep.
All because
And it's
Chris
like-
Pratt couldn't just hang out with his daughter. Now, here's the thing.
We
This
don't
is
know that. We
I know
don't
this
know
is the
that. If
thing
he
that I like.
didn't-
Had he
Yeah.
not left them, let's say the war never happened, right? Or well, we can't really say that. It just no.
Can't say that because we're in a movie.
Let's say they didn't come back to the past to collect
It's
us.
Terminator.
Okay. Let's say they didn't come back to the past to collect us. They just hadn't done that. Does Chris Pratt still leave his daughter? Let's say he does. If he does, she's meant to save the future, which means that she's meant to save the past. If he doesn't leave his daughter, if the aliens, if they don't show up, so like this could be the thing. Them showing up in the past could be the thing that led him to leaving his family, which was the thing that needed to happen to save the world. Does that make sense? So had they not shown up, he might not have left her, and then she wouldn't have been able to make the vaccine because she wouldn't have got all begrudged and gone off and gotten 8 PhDs. Like she would have just been like, 1 PhD, I'm good, Dad. You know.
I don't know. I think she still would have did it. That's just me because it's like
Yeah, they were really setting it up that she was really smart and she
she's
was
very smart. He's been coaching her in science since she was a kid. But also, I feel like whether your father's it's like a double-edged sword essentially. And it's 50-50 for the most part, but it's a double-edged sword. Like when your father is around and he pushes you, and you want to be like him, essentially you will become him because that's what you want to do. You'll ask him questions. You will follow in his footsteps, and because he was still around essentially during that time. Because she literally said, I just wanted you to see me. It still made her work probably just as hard as she would have worked if he was still around. So I feel like this was her journey regardless.
I mean, you think of it two ways. Their dad's into science. He could have encouraged her to do, as much, if not more. He abandoned her, which could have been a motivation for her not to excel. But at the same time, she still went on to that because I think she had the passion for it. And I think that was kind of the purpose of the whole, beginning part where she's digging for worms or digging for vaccines, because it showed that she had a love for science, and despite what her dad did, she still followed that dream. Because she wanted to be like her dad, at least the dad she remembered back when she was younger.
Right.
Yeah.
So
I get your reasoning. I understand it. I still think that the weird Terminator style conundrum thing that happens is all because they come back to the past. That's the catalyst. If they hadn't, it would be weird.
Here's the part that really killed me though, and we can vote after this, or keep talking however it is.
I say we vote.
The part that really cracked me up, and I probably shouldn't have laughed, but I did, is they're like 30 years in the future. They're like, we're holding this technology together with chicken wire and bubble gum, and I'm like, well, that's sad. It's 30 years in the future. You would think that the technology would be a little bit better, and you will be holding it together like that. But also, how many times they have done this? They say they have done this a few times. How many times have you done this? You do this with this crew, and it's an error, and everybody drops in the wrong. I laughed so hard with all these people just dropping from the sky. I was just like, it was Titanic without the boat. It was people were just.
Yeah.
They were just dying, man.
I was just like,
it was a bloodbath.
It was hilarious, and I was like, I'm going to hell for this. But
it was funny. Now, okay, here's another plot hole based upon that exact thing.
Did you think about the song "It's Raining Men"?
Yes,
it's raining men. Have you guys seen that meme? Never mind. Okay, so. Here's the plot hole that I didn't like. They have an oil rig and ships and all these things way out in the middle of the ocean. What was the research lab doing in Miami? Like, what was it doing on land? Why hadn't they moved it? Like, way before that. That rig in the ocean took a long time to build. They could have moved the research lab way forever ago. Oh, and they had one on the rig magically that she just by herself could just walk into and do all the work needed to do an entire vaccine. And then they tried to sit there and be like, we're trying really hard with this montage to show like, oh, 50%, 60%. They tried really hard with montaging to show science, and it.
And let's also talk about the fact that the Dominican Republic was like a safe zone.
There was a lot of weirdness about this flick. Like the whole world is.
No,
and climate change is to blame.
But my thing was these aliens were like superior in all levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
They could land, they could be at sea, they could fly. They essentially had like Spider-Man.
I know they were.
Yeah, they
were sugar gliders.
Squirrels.
Yeah, sugar gliders,
yes.
Man.
I'm sorry, and when they first captured the queen and she did the call to protect them, or to come and protect her, if you figured out that you found the toxin and you did not need her DNA, why not kill her immediately?
Oh my
Because you
gosh!
know the first thing she's gonna do, and you
Listen.
see, oh look, they're holding the vial and they're cherishing it. I need to call my people now.
Not
Okay,
even
so
that. Not even that. Here's the thing. When he walked into the room, he went, "Oh gosh, she smells." I'm like, she's letting off a scent
And she even said it in the film. She's like
all the-
pheromones.
for
Yep.
all the men to find her.
Yep.
And then I felt like I felt like she wasn't even sedated anymore. Because they were like, we give her 180 whatever every hour. Never saw anybody shoot her up with anything or anything going to her system to keep her sedated. I felt like she was sitting there until she sits all the males, and then
And
she
how
woke
do you
up.
get that much morphine?
yeah,
I mean, the amount of
Stockpiled.
morphine, it was enough to kill an elephant that they were giving her per hour.
so can we talk about the alien design for a moment? Because I realized that it was basically somebody was a really big fan of Joss Whedon's Alien Resurrection, so they took the creature from the end, they gave it an alien style like mouth, but like the creature from Attack of the Clones with the big chompy mouth, and then they gave it Doc Ock arms. What the hell did it have Doc Ock arms for? It had four arms
tentacles
and the
from
little
Independence
tentacle
Day.
things with the little pinchy thing on the end, just like Doc Ock. I'm like, what? What the hell?
But don't forget, it shoots stuff like the villain off of Men in Black 3.
Oh yeah. Oh, Splinter.
yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Splinter?
Yeah.
It's just like that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had every skill under this. It was like, let's give the every alien. I was like, all right.
But that was my thing. That was the one thing that I like. Every movie that has some type of alien that comes to Earth, because you don't originate on Earth, there's something on Earth that doesn't mix well with their DNA, right? It's always something like, whether it's sunlight or they can't swim, or maybe it's water, because it's something, right? Like it might not be everything, but it's like one thing that we on Earth have. The aliens are like, we can't touch it, right?
Right.
But this alien was literally like
Hungry.
a Uber vamp from Buffy, where like you had to, or like what's his name from Blade 2, where you had to like go in from the side, like you couldn't just kill him normally. Like you had, and then it was such weird protocols. You either go for the throat or the chest, but they are built like this. So
Okay. Why did they hold that information until Chris Pratt was literally about to die? That guy could have told them that even after they got on the roof. No, even after they got on the roof, he could have been like, "Hey, by the way."
No. They told him that. I remember them saying that from the beginning. The chick, when she had the gun, she was telling them, like, she was like, you aim for the throat and you aim for like the chest or whatever. Like, so they told him that. What they didn't tell them, which I thought was crazy, was that, oh yeah, they could smell blood a mile away. What?
Yeah.
What?
And when did J.K. Simmons' character figure that out? Like, did they have like a debrief on the plane that they didn't really discuss about it? But I loved how it was kind of like, first of all, you had the Predator vibes with the carcasses hanging from the ceiling.
Right.
Like, they didn't even touch on that. Like, oh, they're going to come back and they're hungry. I love the fact that it's like, they're just hungry. We're just meat. There was no purpose. There was no need for natural resources. These things just wanted to eat us. And that's like the best monster ever. There are no motivations. Let's just kill you all and let's chomp you down.
Well, that was ID4. Independence Day had that. They just wanted our planet and they wanted to wipe us out just to have it, just because we were in the way. That to me is the same thing. You're either in the way of the resource or you are the resource. So I like that too. I agree. There were a lot of those moments in this movie where it was just like, why, why? How about we don't trust the government at all. And the government was evil in this movie, by the way, in every possible way. It didn't matter which government, didn't matter who they were automatically bad. Even though in the beginning you were like pro army, pro patriots. This movie couldn't even figure out its own like stance on government. I don't know. It was almost like the government and military are different things, but that's not true. It was very odd. There were a lot of moments. Okay, I'm gonna throw my rating real quick because it's not good, and we'll just go up from here. 2. I'm gonna give it a 2.
Oh,
a solid 2.
Oh, give it a solid 2.
And kid me. probably would have never given it above a 6. I think even kid me would have been cynical about this movie. Let me put it this way. I would rather go back and watch Battle Los Angeles and Skyline as a double feature.
Oh, wow. All right. We see where you're at. I'll go next because we'll let Marvel Life finish because this is his movie. I'm going to give this a 6.5 because I'm never going to watch it again. I'm never going to be like, ooh, let's turn on Tomorrow War. Like, I'm never going to watch it again. And I think 12-year-old me will probably wouldn't go above a 7.5 maybe. This essentially is too dark for her. Too dark for the 12-year-old me. Even though I liked Aliens. So
no, that makes sense.
But this was just, it was, I don't know. It was, my 12-year-old self would be like, okay. All right. So yeah, 6.5, 7.5 as a child.
All right. Go for it, Tony.
Mr. Marvel.
And listen, I like the film, and I will rewatch it again. I think with any film, you know, you're never going to get a perfect film, and there are things that we were able to touch on here. I probably would give it a 7. It's not like the best film out there. And this is where, when you talk about time travel films, I hold Terminator and Terminator 2, mainly Terminator 2, in high regards. And so it is very hard for me to look at anything beyond, you know, that. And that's why I've even been very critical to more of the recent Terminator films. Dark Fate got almost close to really being a good sequel, but it failed miserably in a lot of aspects. But with this film, it's still fun. If you like Chris Pratt, you're gonna like, you know, some of the stuff he does, because again, Chris Pratt kind of plays a similar character throughout films. That's why when you look at the title of this thing, it says Chris Pratt, The Tomorrow War, because you know you're kind of going to watch it because of Chris Pratt. I liked the alien. I especially like the queen. I call her the queen, but you know, she had that, you know, that queen alien vibes from Aliens with Ripley. Some of it was a little bit over the top. I felt like some of the characters could have been developed better. But again, it's a 7 for me. As a kid, I probably would have given this more like an 8 or 9, because again, it does play on the things that I really did like on because of Aliens and because of Terminator 2. And I did like the fact that finally in a film with time travel, you not only get to see the future, but you actually get to go back in time. And so it was nice to see kind of a two sides of the coin, where you learn the future, now you can go back and change it, even though we have some issues with the plot, you know, regarding that, and, you know, whether or not she was lying about how her dad dies or abandons her. You know, and again, you know, but I also feel like they weren't intending this to be as serious as, let's say, Chris Pratt played it. And so Muncie, I don't even know about you. But yeah, that's where I kind of stand with that.
Wait. And Muncie, please take no offense by this, but I know you're a young fella, so that throws me. That throws me when you say that. So
today was a week 3. Yesterday it was a 6.
Wow.
I'm just kidding, Muncie. I'm just joking with you.
We adore you, sir. Don't take any offense by it whatsoever. Matt, what's up, sir?
Yo, Matt, what's up?
How old is Muncie?
Well, I've never asked, because that's not really, you know, I just don't.
Yeah, we don't ask this question because that's the moment where you get like a third.
Yeah, he'll say he's 12, and I'll be like, oh, we're not really
goodbye
talking much now. But like, Muncie, if you're like 15, 16, 17, whatever, this show's at PG-13. It's meant to be for anybody who wants to come hang out and talk movies. So we're, you know, if you're willing to hear the F-bombs dropped occasionally when I get upset about movies, occasionally.
Just watch out, because Mad Cycling just turned 13, I think, if I remember correctly.
I thought Matt was... You're 20? Huh. Babyface. That's awesome. You're going to love with that for the long term. Matt's younger than Muncie?
Yeah, I was making it seem like he was 13.
That just put a lot of things in my brain in perspective. And again, that's why we don't ask, because we just, you know, you're young. That's good. I mean, you're still young compared to me. For God's sakes, I'm almost 45. So Yeah, everybody here is young compared to me. Anyway, that aside. What? Oh, yeah. Okay. So we've covered Tomorrow War. I do have a special thing I wanted to put on real quick. And I got to see if I can do it because I found it, by the way, Tony. I was able to get it downloaded. So hear us now. Okay. I will be switching to a black screen in order to put this freaking thing on because it'll take that. But if you guys just hang out for a second, it'll come right on. So you will hear silence, but I'll be right back with a video.
Hello everyone, how are y'all doing today? First off, I'd like to thank the Triad for this opportunity to be on their wonderful podcast. Mr. Snidbits, White Marvel Girl, Mr. Marvelite. When Mr. Snidbits first approached me about doing this segment, he had, said, hey, my other host members are on TikTok as well, and I was already following all of you just organically, so it's the reason I feel great about this. I hope it turns into something really awesome. I don't really have a name for the segment yet, other than to let you know that I'll let you know about what movies are coming out in the theaters and on streaming. Today I'd like to start off, this is recorded on July 2nd, and on this very day we have the Forever Purge coming out. Keeping up historically, the Purge movies always come out on 4th of July weekend, and this one's the Forever Purge. Watching the trailer, I don't think we can expect, it's a Purge movie. What are you going to get? You're going to get a lot of action, tense moments, gore, death. I mean, if that's your stuff, it should be a good time. Now, next week, July 9th, here we go. It's been 1 year, 1 month, and 9 days since we were originally supposed to get Black Widow, but we're finally gonna get it. I'm so excited for this. I'm feeling like it's lost some of its pizzazz, some of the momentum behind the movie, and that's kind of sad. I'm upset about that, but I think if we all get out there, and those that can make it to the theater, make it to the theater. Those that watch it through the premium Disney Plus, that all helps the film. So I hope it does extremely well. I'm very excited to see it. And, that wraps up the movies for the next 2 weeks. All right, next, let's move on to streaming. This week to Hulu, we have Bill and Ted Face the Music. This is a movie I own, actually. This is a great movie. I really thought they did a great job of doing fun things with Bill and Ted. You can tell it was just a great time on making that movie. It was so much fun to watch, and I really enjoyed it. Also coming to Amazon Prime today, July 2nd, we have The Tomorrow War. This is the action-packed sci-fi adventure with Chris Pratt, who right now seems to be the hottest thing in Hollywood. He's absolutely killing it in every movie he has coming out. In the next few months we're gonna have Jurassic Park Domination coming up. That's another Chris Pratt movie that looks to be just amazing, and I'm excited for The Tomorrow War. The trailer looked great, and I like the sci-fi jump around space-time thrillers. They always seem to be quite enjoyable. To wrap up the streaming segment, we'll move on to Netflix, who brings us a new Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway. I looked at this trailer, it absolutely looked like a great Gundam series. It's got giant robots, it's got lasers, it's got fighting, good guys, bad guys. I will say this, somewhere in the trailer there was the look of a Gundam that really reminded me of something out of Neon Genesis Evangelion. So I liked it. The art style looked good. The new Gundams that were in the trailer looked amazing. If giant robots are your thing, then I'll probably definitely be watching it. And also coming up is released from Netflix is Dynasty Warriors. Now this is a video game that I played 2, 3, 4 of them. They're really fun. They are what I call button mashing fun. Anybody can jump into a Dynasty Warriors game and absolutely have a good time. will that translate to a movie? Looking through the trailer, it definitely has some questionable effects. It did look fun. There was a lot of great battle scenes. I caught the reviews from the good old interwebs, and they did not have the greatest things to say about it. But if I see it and I'm bored one Friday night, yeah, I'll probably watch Dynasty Warriors just to say I watched it. So that wraps up this segment for this week. Hopefully this is well accepted, and I really enjoyed doing it. So thanks again to the Triad, Mr. Snidbits, Black Marvel Girl, and Mr. Marvelite. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
And we're back. I hope you guys enjoyed that short preview segment, and we're going to be having that every week. That is Sean, Super Kame Guru, over on TikTok. If you have not checked him out, please go follow him right away. He's got some great content, nerd content in general, both movies, TV, comic books. He kind of does it all. Pop Dolls is another big one for him. Obviously, as you can see in his background, a lot of anime, DBZ. But anyway, he will be our preview guy. So welcome to the Real Triad Review, Sean. Mm-hmm. And we have about 45 minutes to tackle two things. So we have options because we get to decide. Do we want to spend 45 minutes unpacking episode 4 of Loki, or do we want to try to pack in Invincible and Loki in 45 minutes?
I think we can do it.
Yeah, we can do it.
Okay. So
we'll see what happens.
I think Invincible is because we should go Invincible first, I think. In case, well, I don't know. We don't have a huge chat today. That's okay. I just want to make sure nobody's going to be bothered by any spoilage that we do for Loki specifically. I know that's the biggest show, so I like to leave that one for the end. Besides, by then maybe everybody will be done with their fireworks and come back and catch us. So let's talk about Invincible. We're going to go through episodes 2 through, I believe there are 8 total episodes, so 2 through 8. And we're going to do this fairly quickly because we're going to just kind of hit the highlights and the plot points and what we liked and didn't like about it. And I know that last week, Marvelite was talking about Robot. And I was really curious as to where that was going to lead and what he wanted to say about Robot. And then I would love to talk about Monster Girl, and I would love to talk about the twins. Those are kind of 2 highlights for me I would love to touch upon, as well as the overarching story of season 1. So that's where I'm at. Do you guys have anything you'd like to highlight?
No, I'm definitely for that. With me with Robot, it was kind of like I realized when I mentioned Robot last week, we were only talking about the one episode, and really the storyline that I was mentioning with him, in my perception, was based off of the series itself for the first season, because Robot makes a lot of very questionable decisions that you really get this idea that he's a villain within the hero group when you actually realize he's just manipulating the villains, and he even comes out and admits what he did to be able to get to the point that he did, and that he had to earn the trust back from the team, which I thought was very interesting.
Did you like that aspect? Because I know you weren't digging Robot so much because of the actor that played him. Everybody thought he was kind of flat. He was just Spock again because he's being played by the same actor.
Oh no, I Zachary Levi just kind of, he's whatever with me, but the character, the Robot character, I thought, how much emotion are you going to put into a robot, really, until you realize who Robot really is at that point. It's kind of like it's like you don't expect it to be played like Brendan Fraser in Doom Patrol, because it's a very different character. Of course, at least you thought that was the case. But I was getting like this maniacal, like evil villain vibe from him until you find out really what he did, and what he did, like he like blackmailed them and send them back to jail and everything else, the twins. And
was he good, or was he anti-villain, doing the right thing for the wrong reasons?
He's good, because you think about it, he was like the leader of the team. He was the one that was trying to get them to get along and to work well. He just used a questionable means to restore him, because he was trying to there's a little bit of a selfish thing with him with Monster Girl, But at the same time, you could tell she was a little bit smitten that he would do that for her, that he would, put himself into a younger body for the purpose that she wouldn't be alone, at that point. So
Right. And she was 25, which was an interesting power thing. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about was this show goes to places that a lot of shows won't, or where even the Eternals will go when it comes out for the MCU, where there's a child character who's playing somebody who's far older than they really are. And you get that from like Interview with the Vampire and other things like that. My little girl is yelling a lot tonight, so welcome her to the real, I guess, what's after Triad? Dyad? Anyway.
Baby Bits.
Baby Bits. So these characters are very interesting, and I actually like that her power actually is detrimental to her in a way. It actually has a flaw. Yeah. I love flawed characters, even if they're superheroes, because they have something that makes them go, well, I can't do this all the time. So we got to keep our regimen to 3 times a week. Otherwise I'm going to, become an infant. Like, that's a bizarre but interesting concept. Apparently. So I don't know. That's one of the characters that intrigued me the most out of the Teen Titans ripoff, if you will.
I loved how they introduced her. I think when she kicked the crap out of that other character, that was fantastic.
Oh yeah,
he needed it. I think he needed it. Everybody wanted him to get it, and the fact that he got it by essentially a little girl, quote unquote, just made it even better.
Agreed. Some of the other characters feel very throwaway because for whatever reason I'm not remembering them right now, but those are the ones that stick out to me on the team. Those 3-4 specifically.
There's the multiplying girl or whatever.
Yeah, it was like she can multiply herself. I don't know. It was weird.
The guy, when she slept with Rex, I was just like, you're obviously not a team player, so I can't trust you with my guy, let alone my life. So you have a good day. Like I get her.
I felt for Eve a lot during the show because she was trying hard to do right in most situations, but she kept falling for the douchebag, which I can't stand. That trope's a little old, but I do like that we don't have her just with our main character. That also is old.
But we know that's going to happen. So, but whatever.
I know it'll happen. So then there's some fun side characters. Like I love Mark Hamill's character as the suit designer. I think that's fantastic. Great character for him to play because he gets to just play a regular person, but with an extraordinary role, which I think is fun.
He doesn't sound like Joker. So I or like Ozai.
Right.
So like I thoroughly every now and again, Mark Hamill, his voice seemed to blend sometimes for me. And I'm not saying that there aren't like miraculous performances because they are, but it's like I immediately know it's him. And sometimes I don't like that when I watch stuff. It kind of takes me out. And the fact that I didn't know it was him, I was like, okay.
Yeah, I had to look it up. Right.
Yeah.
Totally. The Sandra Oh character, I love the mystery that we go through the whole series because we're basically her. Like, we're the humans, so she's our character. Yes, of course, we're riding along with Invincible. That's the point. But there's always a character that we ground ourselves with in every film. And she was that character. We were able to go through watching what Omega Man was doing, but from her perspective, and just knowing that as he slowly unraveled, we get to not trust him the same way she doesn't trust him. And I can't imagine how heartbreaking that would be for someone in her position to watch somebody you love for 20 years. I mean, I've been with my wife 15 years, so.
Being lied to for that time to, like, just been lied to for 20 years. Just been lied
and not a small lie.
No, like a huge lie. Like my whole life lie.
Yeah, and it's not even that like I'm a superhero lie. Like that lie, for some reason, I think I would accept because it'd be protecting somebody. So like that's a different but this was literally so that he could train a human half-breed to help him.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Like,
Omega Man's dark, dude. Like he's a dark character, and nobody can play him like J.K. Simmons. Are we just gonna do all J.K. Simmons all night?
Omni-Man? Yeah, I think we should do it. We should have a J.K. Simmons Sunday one day.
J.K. Simmons month, just a month of J.K. Simmons roles. We could do it. There's enough of them.
I like Sandra Oh's because I like Sandra Oh. I think she's a beautiful, beautiful actress. And she's a great voice actress too. Like you could see the emotion that she's putting into her character, and I like that she isn't like a typical like throwaway kind of weak character.
Right.
I love that she has those moments where she's like a mom and she's like soft and she's like, come on, but then she's also like a wife. And she's like,
Well,
obviously Viltrumites have anger issues.
maybe.
A little bit.
A little bit. Because Omni-Man snapped at her and she was like, who are you? Well, who are you talking to? And then like her son snapped at her. I recently been trying to edit my Invincible reactions. And I had to read because you have to rewatch stuff when you edit stuff. And she was like, "You need to go to your room and get ready for school. You need to go to sleep." So he was like, "Make me," and I was like, "Who are you talking to?"
I love that she put
like,
him right there, though. She was like, "Nuh-uh."
Yeah, and I love that she was just like, "Oh, so you want me to say that? Like, I can't physically make you? Do you want that? Is that what you want?" Like,
yeah, you want to feel big. Yeah, I love
exactly.
that.
Yeah. An asshole at the end. So like I love that she isn't like this meek kind of like she's kind of super in her own way, just not in the obvious. So I like that.
Totally agree. Can we bring up Cecil? Cecil is probably my favorite human character. He what I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said I dig Cecil. I just dig him.
I do too, because especially since this was a fun trope, because they're like, this is the bad guy, right? This is the CIA. This is the bad guy, right? No, no, he's not. He's literally just trying to do what's literally best for everyone. But he just has a look and a feel about him that seems corrupt. And he's not. He's genuinely not. He might have some really crazy ideas of how to do things, but he's got good in his heart. He's trying to do the right thing, which is not what I expected.
I think he's very matter of fact, and he plays everything close to the vest. And a lot of people don't like that because everybody wants to know your business.
Right.
Everybody wants to know what you're doing, how you're doing it, when you're doing it. Can they be a part of it? And he's very much, I'll let you know. I'll let you know when you need to know. Like, I'll let you know what I know. Like, he's very, he just plays things like very close to the vest, and I dig that about him. Because everybody doesn't need to know. Because once everybody knows, everybody dies. Because Omni-Man's nuts.
Right.
Like, I think he knew off rip that Omni-Man did it. He just didn't want to believe it and had to get more facts to prove his theory.
It was also because he wanted to figure out whether or not, Mark Grayson was going to be one that would be an ally to them or would be just as bad as his father.
Yeah, he says that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, my favorite character was Damien Darkblood. I thought he was a cool character.
I was gonna ask because Clancy Brown's amazing.
I loved Hellboy. I mean, yeah.
So Clancy Brown is one of those actors that nobody knows. I say the name Clancy Brown and people go, "Who?" And I'm like, dude, his voice is so iconic. And so he is the perfect Darkblood. I always go back to his role in Starship Troopers, right? That's the one that I always remember because he plays the drill sergeant, right? And he's so good, and he busts himself down to private and the whole deal. Like, I love him in all the movies he plays in, and he's got so many good roles. This show is loaded to the brim with fantastic, not just voice actors, but also actors. They've gotten a nice mix. Seth Rogen, that whole episode where Cecil comes along and goes, "Hey, you got to go deal with this. He's on his way," and they don't tell you anything. And he's like, "Invincible, you go do it." And he's got to go fight Seth Rogen, literally, alien stoner Seth Rogen.
That is hilarious.
So I love it, and they fight, and then it's great. I'll leave that part alone for anybody that might not have seen the episodes, but it's a great little fun thing. It's one of those little throwback things they do too. But
I like how he came back at the last episode too.
Right, and so you get lots of him. Jeffrey Donovan playing Machine Head, who is basically just Black Mask. Michael Dorn, Digimon Hunsu, Ezra Miller. Lenny James, who was from The Walking Dead.
Ross Marquand, who was actually from Walking Dead and played Red Skull in Infinity War and Endgame.
Nice. We've also got Sean Patrick Thomas, Justin Roiland? Jonathan Groff. The Groff is in Invincible. He plays Rick Sheridan. How do I not know that character? Anyway, Jonathan Groff is one of my favorite actors for his generation because of the show Mindhunter. That show is phenomenal. But let's not forget Steven Yeun, because we have actually not mentioned his name once, and he plays Invincible so well. I buy that character. I'm actually invested in Invincible's character all the way to the end.
Marshall Ali.
He
Who?
doesn't even sound like himself. Steven Yeun,
Marshall Ali.
Marshall Ali.
He was Titan.
Mm-hmm.
We had Blade.
Yeah.
Who?
Working.
Who?
Marshall Ali
Oh, I
played
see.
Cottonmouth and Luke Cage, and he's going to be Blade in the next MCU.
I got you.
Blade
It took me a minute to figure out what you were saying. You were just saying, like, I know this is a name, but I have not caught on. I try to know actors' names. I do, but I don't know them all. Lala, you were saying something about Steven Yeun.
Oh, I enjoy his voice acting in this because we all know that Steven is a grown man and he has to play a 16-year-old kid. And your voice from 16 to 30 sounds totally different. And he doesn't, like, every now and again when he yells, I'm like, Glenn. But mostly I don't hear Glenn, right? And I don't hear Steven. So, like, I love whatever kind of nuance he's doing with his voice. I'm enjoying that.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not, sometimes, like, when the voice acting will take me out of it if you're not, if this is the age you're supposed to be, or maybe you should be sounding like a little bit older, a little bit younger, and you don't, it kind of takes me out of it. And he kind of like draws me in. As, I'm not going to say terrible. Terrible is a bad word, but I'm still going to use it because I don't know what word to use at this moment. But how terrible Mark is as a superhero, you feel for him, especially that last episode. But but you just feel for him as a character because it's like, all he's doing, he's trying so hard to be so good, and it's like nobody's letting him.
Well, and nobody
just
not just let him. They literally don't believe he can. They're like, oh, what a name, Invincible. Oh, good, great, good. Try to live up to that kid. And then they also they also constantly are basically like not giving him a hand up. Like here, you're in a superhero. We have for 5-10 years, whatever we have. They could give him more information, and they all don't. They all leave him to struggle. And it drives me a little nuts. The only person that doesn't is his mother, who is his real mentor, and you can tell that. And I love that because
he's like
Omega Man is not. Yeah.
His actual power, like that's who needs to be training him, and that's the power that he needs to tap into. Like,
agreed.
Like his father, it's like one of those things where it's like it's very, again, I'm about to bring up the Flash, where like the Flash is like the positive side of the Speed Force, and then like Reverse Flash is like the negative side of the Speed Force. It's like that's him and his father. His father is like all the hate that I have, that's what fuels me as a Viltrumite. But for Mark, it's the love. Like when his mom got disrespected, that's when he finally was like getting blows in and making actually a dent, is when like his mother was getting, you know what I mean? So it's like somehow season 2 they could find a way for him to follow that up, because obviously he has the same abilities as his father, but he still gets bruised like a human because he still has like the mind frame of it. He's still thinking like, oh, I can get hurt, so it allows him to get hurt, right?
That's interesting.
I think his human side of being a Viltrumite is actually the benefit. It's not the weakness in this case.
Interesting. I would actually say that there are a couple of moments where Mark gets stronger because he actually taps into his anger, and that's interesting because I actually think that the whole Star Wars turn from anger is good. It's right. You shouldn't live with anger, but the fact that he can tap into it in a fight and use it to his advantage is legitimately something humans do. Like that's what we are. So the fact that he, just like Marvel, I just said, he taps into that human rage. And even though Viltrumites might have it, but I think ours is maybe a little more potent because he gets to the point where he's like, no more. And he gets super strong. And I'm like, dude, that's cool to watch a superhero get stronger. But I'm Hulk fan, so maybe that's just me.
But I feel like humans run on emotion though. Like that's our basis of being. Like everything we do is for a purpose, driven by emotion at some level, right? It might not be God tier emotion most all the time, but it's tears to like our emotion. And if Mark just knew how to channel that, then like he will be like a force to be reckoned with. But then I hope that that's not a catalyst that will, push him towards like full Viltrumite mind frame. You know what I mean? Like we really don't want that on our hands. And but real quick though, I just want to say we forgot the greatest voice actor in this thing, and that's Reginald Bell Johnson.
Oh yeah.
Who played the principal, Principal Winslow. That's just genius. That's just beautiful to me. I love that.
I was looking at that too and didn't bring it up. But since we're going to talk about amazing voice actors, we do need to touch back on the twins, who of course were played by, where is he? There he is. Kevin Michael Richardson. And I think they were some of the most creative villains I've seen on screen in a long time, because they were I wanted to just have a show about them, dude. I would have seriously sat down and watched 6 episodes about their adventures.
They're dynamic, because it's like, both of them are like, I'm the original. It's like, but which one are you though? Like,
right.
But it seems to be clones. So it's like, I think the original died out a long time ago.
But I love how they explained it when Robot was having like that moment of self-realization, where they basically said the whole way to make this work is that they both believe that they're the clone, because it's the only way, because it's out of love for themselves that they want to spare them that trauma of realization.
Right. And he doesn't get to do that. This is a dark show, and it's not dark like The Boys, which I think we should do The Boys, talk about The Boys at some point, because it is a good show and worth talking about.
That's the case. All spoilers for The Boys, because it's been out long enough that we need to spoil the hell out of that. So,
and we could, but I think that The Boys was like the cynical approach to superheroes, while I think Invincible was an approach of trying to retell it in a new way. And I like that they kind of sit juxtaposed to each other, even though they're basically the same concept. They feel completely different. One is all about the good doing right and trying to overtake, and the other one is about how bad will win if it's better than worse. And I like that too, and don't get me wrong, Butcher is I love Butcher. Anyway, The Boys has been my obsession as well. I've been just binging all of these shows. So anyway,
we're a little bit behind. I have to catch up
on The Boys. Have you watched any of it?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
I've watched a good bit of it. I kind of got like, at some point when you binge, you kind of like lose interest for a little bit, and I haven't jumped back in to go overboard. I should have done that while I was sick.
Season 2 is solid. Like, I didn't expect it to be. I was like, where are they going to go from there? But I'm worried about season 3, because season 1 and 2 package really nicely together. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Invincible does end on a really effed up note. It has that nice soft, like Seth Rogen like talk moment, which is great. But the concept of the final episode was gut wrenching. Like, it pulled me into this, like, man, what would I do? I literally kept thinking, if I was Mark, what would I do? How would I approach this? And shows don't usually pull me in enough to make me consider myself fully in a role. I usually just go idiot or something to that effect. Is everything okay, Lala?
No, it's like multiple water bugs just underneath my chair.
Oh no. Wait, what? Did you say water bugs?
Yeah.
What's a bug?
Well, fox bug. What do you want to call it?
I don't know what that is either.
Like those little, like they're not roly polies, but the ones that when you touch them, they like roll into a ball.
Isn't that what a roly poly is?
Yeah, water bugs in Virginia are a lot different than that.
I'll literally look it up. Like that's not what they are.
You'll have to send me throw it up in the channel, in Discord or something. But yeah, we got to talk about this on a whole nother thing, because that means we have completely different bugs and descriptions of bugs that we have similar, and there's lingo that we've got to. That's interesting. Sorry, I never even thought about that. It'd be like if we had somebody from Europe on the show, and they'd be up really late though, wouldn't they? Or up early. So Invincible, I don't want to go too much further into it, because if you haven't watched the whole thing, it's really, really worth watching. I think that we've done enough to talk about the great moments and without spoiling some great stuff. And I want to rate it so that we can spend a good 25 minutes talking about Loki, because I do think we should talk a lot about this episode because it got me back, because last week I was all flustered and upset and bored.
Yeah.
And I'm not anymore. So I'm going to rate this, since this was my show, I'm going to rate it last. So, Lala, you give Invincible season 1 a rating.
I'll give season 1 an 8 because I still feel like there's room to grow. That's still a high because I'll never go to 10. So with anything, but I gave it an 8. I thought it was I like animation, so like most animations, I'm like that's a solid 8.
Just from being animation.
Yeah, I'm big on animation. But I thought the story was good. I thought the voice acting is always, if it's top tier, you'll get a high mark from me. Because even if you don't have the best drawing, sometimes your storytelling and voice acting can make your show be the greatest thing ever. Because I mean, like, look at Bob's Burgers. So, it's not the greatest drawing, but hey, it's funny. Great storylines through and through. 12-year-old me will probably give this like a 9, like a high 9, because I was very emo back then. I was very like dark, and this is a bloody and and they cursed, and nobody in my house cursed but my father, and so it was like a taboo type of thing. So I would have been all up on this as a 12-year-old. So.
Oh, I like that. No cursing in the house. That's interesting. Tony, what do you give Invincible season 1?
Robert Kirkman does not disappoint when it comes to his stories, and so the only concern, and again, this is where I'm coming from a standpoint that I've not read the comics. So with that said, with the exception of Amber Bennett, I loved everything about the show. I just do not like the character. I love Zazie Beetz, but I do not like Amber Bennett. So I'd give it probably about an 8, or let's say a solid 8. And definitely probably a 9 or 10 for 12-year-old me, just because I'd look over that kind of stuff. But I just think Amber Bennett's a trash can. That's just how it is right now.
But you have to have a trash character, so to me that gives it a plus.
Yeah,
like,
the chauvinistic dude on their Justice League group, that was my trash character. I didn't need the self-righteous soup kitchen girl going all, I already know you're a superhero, but I'm angry that you didn't spend more time with me and not save the world. Like,
for me,
that's
like that
worse than trash.
For me, I didn't need the only black female to be that character.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I can understand that. I completely.
And I'll bring that into like a race thing. If people want to talk about that, I talk about her on my TikTok. I'm all for standing up for yourself. I'm all for women empowerment. I'm all for it because I'm a woman. I stand up for myself. I don't let people take advantage of me. Like I said, the moment she released that she knew who he was, she lost all credibility with me. And I did not want the only black female main character in this show to be that person. And then you find out, I think originally in the comics she's supposed to be white, right? Is she originally white in the comics? Somebody tell me that?
That I do not know. I'd have to look it.
I think she was originally white in the comics, so it's like.
So not only did they do that to the character, but the character they made her a black character and then did that as well. Like why do that?
You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where it's like, do better. Like that's all I got. Do better. So,
I did like that it was an Asian lead character, which is something we don't see very often, and that the family was a mixed family with. I mean, I guess he was an alien if you want to get right down to it, but presenting as a white Caucasian male with an Asian wife, and I thought that was great. Again, not something you see often, and the fact that he is the main character and the main superhero is cool. But I do take your point on top of that, where they do well in one area and then fail miserably in another. So now I don't want to rate it a 10. No, I'm kidding, of course. I was going to give it a 9 because I solidly love this. To me, it feels like what the DCU animated could be if they take off the training wheels and let those characters be. And I liked that. And I do like that Robert Kirkman was, doing, the finger to DC more than Marvel. The tropes out of this show were definitely Justice League, definitely Superman, definitely all that stuff. I did not get a like, yeah, it was a Teen Titans they were making. Yeah, it was never. I never got any. Yeah, even Injustice, like you had the Dark Justice League with Dark with what was his name now? I can't remember it. With the Hellboy character. Yeah. So they, yeah. Dark Blood. So they had the like Dark Justice League with Dark Blood and all these, they even had why do I always forget her name? The one that runs the Suicide Squad. Amanda Waller. That's Cecil is Amanda Waller. So they basically just completely ripped off DC, or Kirkman did.
Yeah, except for I liked Cecil. I don't like Amanda Waller.
No, agreed. But again, that's why it's playing on that trope, because you expect an Amanda Waller character, and then Cecil's like, nah, dude, I'm chill. I'm cool. So again, a show about just Cecil would probably be fun. Especially with his sidekick, who was the ballsiest intern I've ever seen in a show.
Shout out to his number 2, because like that's a solid guy right there. That's a solid guy. I'm not even mad at him.
Okay, something is going on with Marvelites.
It's happening.
Yeah, you got real bright.
See if I can...
You're having problems. There we go. There we go.
All right, then
It's a little better. I don't know what happened there, and then now I've lost. Now I've lost Lala. Of course I did. And then that, and then this, and then that, and then she's back, gone, there. I'm having problems. Bear with me, America. All right, we're back. Okay, and you're only a little blue. I'm blue. Okay, we have 15 minutes to talk about Loki episode 4. So I say we just admit right now that if you're watching right now, you're going to get spoilers. I'm not putting up the spoiler alert. We are going to just tear into this episode hard. And I say we start at the end and work our way back.
Okay.
Wow, your video is really gone again. It's going goodbye. Do you see that? Is it just slowly fades? No. It's Marvelite. I don't know what's going on there.
Whoa.
You seeing that?
Yeah, I am. I can't. Let me see. My white balance is it auto? Let me see if I can lower my white balance. See if that'll help.
Now you're pink. I like it.
Well, I'll start talking about Loki.
Please. Start at the end and work your way back.
So at the end, we get Loki got pruned, and I was like, he ain't gonna die. It's his show. So I was like, obviously, pruning takes you somewhere else then. And you find out that he is somewhere with other multiverse Lokis, which is very interesting to see. I'm very curious. I would say episode 4 for me, I thought it was going to be like the WandaVision episode 4, where like all your questions got answered, and but not all of them, but like the majority of them. And I thought it was going to be like a very, very much like informed type of episode, but all it did was give me more questions. This episode, it just gave me way more questions, because now I'm curious. Now that we know that everybody in the TVA are variants, and obviously Mobius got pruned, but we know he's somewhere too, so I'm assuming he might be in the same place that Loki turned up in, maybe. I don't know if like pruning got like a turnkey where you can like prune people where you want to put them. I don't think so. I'm just going to assume that everybody gets put in the same place when they get pruned.
But wouldn't that be every timeline they ever destroyed?
I mean,
when you see the zoom out, it kind of looks like it.
And it looks like that whenever they use the wands, it's exactly the same breakdown as when they set off one of the bombs, which of course looks just like just looks like Scott Lang's little bomb from in the quantum universe. But we can get into that later.
But I think it's great that Loki is loving himself, essentially, and he's loved worse than that in the comics that I've read. So there's a lot of people up in arms about him falling in love with himself, essentially, or at least having feelings for himself. And I'm just like, if nobody is going to love you, you should love you. I'm a firm believer in that. His love is just his self is just manifested out in the open. Like, I don't really see an issue with that.
He's just a physical narcissist.
I mean, why wouldn't he love him? He loves himself. and now he can talk to, he can literally talk to himself face to face in the form of somebody that like don't give it, like will smack him in the face, tell me he's doing wrong. Like, so it's like, why wouldn't you? Like, I don't. But this episode, like I said, left me with a lot of questions. But it's good questions though. Like it's giving me like that feeling where I'm like, ah man, I can't wait to episode 5. And it took to episode 4 to make me feel that way.
Me too.
I really wasn't. I was begrudgingly like watching these episodes only because I had to come here and talk about them, right? So
that's fair.
No, because sometimes I would watch them on Sunday. Like, oh shit, Loki, so I can talk about this with the guys. And so, for me, like, I'm just wondering, like, I feel like Kang is a part of this because, again, I'm still messed up that the TVA is so advanced, but the timekeepers were animatronic. Like, it was very Chuck E. Cheese for me.
It did feel Chuck E. Cheese once they got knocked down.
Yeah, it was because they were all like, ha 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 ha.
It's somebody's birthday.
You did that so perfectly, Lala. You did that perfectly.
I am an actress. So I'm just like, oh, okay. But I just want more. So I'm really excited for episode 5 to see where Loki is, to meet these other multiverse Lokis. Maybe they have even more information for him that he can take back to Sylvie. I'm excited to see Sylvie interrogate Ravonna because I didn't like her from jump.
Yeah, she bugged me too.
Because part of me feels like she knows everything that's happening. She knows that everybody is variants. I feel like she knows that, like, maybe she was taken from another timeline, however it is. Or maybe she just like deeply brainwashed, that they made her think that she was the only one that was created and everybody else is variants, and like she runs the place. I still feel like Kang is somehow attached to this. And I feel like the Lokis are key to the decimation of the TVA. And possibly Kang himself, or at least adjacent to it. But I have a lot of questions, and I can't wait to get them answered.
Okay, so I mentioned this to Lala earlier, but I have heard a theory. I'm not going to claim this theory as my own, but I've heard a theory, and I've kind of thought about it a lot and expounded a little further on it. But essentially, the theory is that the person in charge of the TVA is Loki. Not our Loki, not the main timeline Loki, and obviously not any of these other Lokis, but a Loki who literally didn't want any other Lokis, so he's been casting them all out or killing them or pruning them, putting them in one particular place. And this Loki had special powers that he wanted, and he pulled this Loki out of the timeline when she was young as soon as he figured out, or she, whichever Loki this is, as soon as she figured out that Sylvie had powers, pulled Sylvie, destroyed her timeline, or put it to this other universe where the multiverse gets collided. Mega world, if you will, because I know that Marvelite was talking about that a little bit.
Battleworld, yeah.
So, sorry, Battleworld. So that's possible as well, where we could get Battleworld early in MCU, which would be very weird and interesting, but cool at the same time. But if it's another Loki, it explains to me almost everything, because he would want to create this fake alternate, the TVA. He would want to eliminate all the Lokis and watch them die. Why else would he bring 2 of them in to watch them die? Why? Loki. I really do believe that whoever came up with that, and again, it wasn't me, nailed that one, because I do believe it's a Loki behind everything. And it just feels right. I don't know. But Kang here, and
Loki.
The one other thing that makes me think that is the Mephisto problem from WandaVision, where we all thought it was Mephisto. Of course, Kang's what we're going to think. That's what they want us to think. They want us to think Kang. I thought Kang in the first episode. I was like, Kang the Conqueror. So I don't know. It's tricky.
I mean, it looked like, but like when the TVA, like the wood carvings of them are from the floor, from the wall, at a certain angle, one of them looked like Kang. Like, it looked like it was one of those like Bosch paintings, or one of those paintings that, like, whatever those paintings are, that like when you look at it at different angles, it could be different things.
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of looked like Kang. But I'm just throwing it out there. I just thought it was curious. So
agreed. No, and I like your idea as well, because I appreciate it. I even liked the TikTok. And if you haven't watched Lala's TikToks, go watch her amazing TikToks where she breaks down the MCU, as does Marvelite. They both break it down far better than I do. I just ask random questions. Marvelite, let's hear from you. Question. Well, I appreciate that, but let's hear what Marvelite's got, because we haven't heard from him on Loki yet.
Yeah, well, you haven't heard from me much because I haven't been able to speak too much. But first of all, let's just address this. Richard E. Grant is classic Loki. I love the fact that they name him that in this episode. Like, he's not only wearing the classic outfit, they call him classic Loki. Just like they call let's see, what's his name? Jack Veal is the kid Loki. We also have the alligator Loki, and then I'm gonna butcher this name. Deobia Opere. They call him the boastful Loki, and he's literally got like a hammer. Like I really want to see that what basis he comes off of. But what I find really interesting is if you look at the storyline, what I came from it was there is some type of fascist entity within, that is governing what's going on with the TVA. Now, here's my thing: if in the fact that the Loki is in charge of the TVA, like you're saying, Snitty, um, I find there's a little bit of a hole with that, because typically all of these individuals have been enchanted to believe that they are not, or they've lost their memory, and we have not seen a Loki do that, with the exception of like a time stone where he's been able to control their knowledge of stuff. And so if we believe that the time mind stone does not work within the TVA or any of the reality stones, then the power that comes from it probably would do that as well. And if he's needing Sylvie's power because it is an enchanting power, then it would make sense, because he basically has been able to enchant all of these people from the beginning to be able to control them. I did not think it was Kang when we first started this show, with the exception of the the Ravonna Renslayer reference. But I'm starting to believe that Kang is most likely the character that we're going to end up seeing. And they may not we may not directly get Kang in this, but I think it's going to point to Kang, and I think this is going to kind of cascade to something bigger. What I do find interesting is when you go back, and of course, Sylvie wants to know what was it that made her a variant that Ravonna wanted her for.
Yeah, what was her nexus?
And she wouldn't tell her. She's like, does it matter? I believe that it's key to the scene that we saw where they took her. Sylvie was sitting there. Sylvie is a Loki that, first of all, knew her heritage beforehand. It wasn't kept from her like it was with Tom Hiddleston's Loki. So she knew she was a frost giant. She was playing with toys that, when you look at like Thor and Loki, like when they talk about their past, they're fighting and battling, and Loki is doing things like hiding as a snake and then stabs Thor, or turns Thor into a frog, like he's tricking people. But the Sylvie Loki, was literally just sitting down playing with toys, depicting a victory for going in the way of the hero, whereas all the other Lokis are kind of villainous. And I think that was the big thing for her, is she was identifying herself as possibly being more than just a trickster. She was thinking of herself as being like a warrior of Asgard, which Loki never considered. He always wanted to be the heir of the throne. And when you have that moment on Lamentis between Tom Hiddleston and his Loki and Sylvie, they're sitting there. They're kind of coming to a point in their thing where I don't think it's necessarily love that we're seeing from Loki, but it's a confidence that they can do good, or that they had the intention of doing good. And I think that it's not so much that Loki may love, although I think it's kind of fun that the idea of thinking Loki would ship himself. But I think it's more of, she is bringing out the hero in him, and that was creating another Nexus event, because I think up to that point, Tom Hiddleston's Loki was probably still trying to find a way to make this all come out on his side. Whereas when we find him, taken by the TV at the beginning, he's more worried about Sylvie and what's going on with her. Which is a turn, because Loki doesn't normally care. And then even when you see him responding emotionally to the issue that happens with Mobius, and then how he responds when Mobius told him that Sylvie was already, processed. Like, you see an emotional response out of him that is no longer guarded, because Loki never shows, the hurt that he's feeling to anyone. I mean, even when his mother, when Frigga died, he was already doing an illusion. And it wasn't until Thor, kind of went through it that he finally let the barrier down, and you see everything's destroyed and he's sitting like a mess on the floor. So, we're seeing a more vulnerable Loki, which means Loki is more dangerous because he's willing to show what he's attached to.
Well, it took until Ragnarok for that to happen for our Loki.
Right. And at that point, he was just near the point of where Thanos is going to kill him. But this is happening a lot sooner for Loki in this point.
Well, he was
also
forced.
Makes him more
the TVA, the TVA
crash.
forced him to understand he was insignificant, which was the very first major step. I think that's
but
why
I think that was also a lie, though.
No, I agree, but I still think it was necessary for Loki, regardless of whether it was a lie. He believed it enough. Well, and it's true. I mean, he literally had no power there. So, my wife even was like, "Why aren't they using magic?" I'm like, "They're in the TVA. They can't use magic here," which makes sense because they're probably at a molecular level, and you can't use magic down that small. That's what I imagine.
Somebody asked the question.
You're in the quantum realm idea, aren't you?
If Bruce Banner was at the TVA, could he turn into the Hulk?
Yes, because it's a genetic thing. It'd be no different than could I cough or sneeze or grow my hair further as I stand there. So, if your hair stops growing, sure, he can't turn into the Hulk. Yes, somebody did ask a question. Muncie asked, did we all get to hear the whispering "see you soon" after the android reveal? I thought I had heard that, but I'm not sure if I even know at this point if we're talking about the same thing. So, Muncie, can you elaborate for us? Possibly.
Or Marvel, did you know what he's talking about?
If I remember correctly, I haven't gone back and rewatched the episode because it really messed me up. And if it wasn't for the end credit scene, I probably would have been really upset with the whole episode. But I think it was the head after it was decapitated. I think it either that or it was one of the remaining ones said something about "see you soon," and then they kind of deactivated.
Where?
Right when Sylvie cuts the head off of the one,
Mm-hmm.
as if you remember, they chuckled.
Yeah.
And then one of them says, "See you soon."
No, I gotta go back and watch that because I didn't hear that at all.
I think I did hear it. I don't know how significant it necessarily is, but we'll see. So it is 9:00 here on the West Coast, and of course midnight there on the East Coast for y'all, which does bring us to the last moments here of Real Triad reviews for the week of July 4th, 2021. Happy July 4th for those American listeners, and for the rest who don't care, have a good normal Sunday. And I would say that you already kind of see how we all feel about this episode. Marvelite felt like we did about the first middle episodes, and now Lala and I are more on board. So it's kind of interesting how it's switched this week. And of course, next week you can tune in while we watch episode 5.
Let me correct something real quick.
Oh no, please.
I'm not saying that the episode bothered me. It was an episode that I wasn't where you guys are kind of where my mindset was. I had this dreaded feeling like Infinity War at the end of Loki episode 4.
Oh,
and
I see.
The end credit scene made it more palatable to me, because I was literally sitting there the next 7 days was going to be basically me waiting to see, is it truly going to come to fruition that I'm going to lose something that I've enjoyed, for the last, we're almost at 9 years now. No, about 10 years now with this character. And so
11. It came out in 2010.
11, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because the Thor. And so for me it was very dreaded that, it would end the way it did. But then as soon as they showed the end credit scene, I got really excited and couldn't wait to see the next episode. So I don't want you to think that I didn't like the episode.
Okay.
It was just that it emotionally messed me up more than the other previous ones did.
I knew he didn't die. I was like, he ain't dead. It's his
Yeah,
show.
I was like, it's his show. How's he gonna die?
I had just watched a theory that said that we were going to see Loki for the last time in episode 3, and then episode 4 we were going to lose him, and it was going to be Sylvie Loki, and it was going to follow her, and he's gone. And I was dreading to think that was going to happen, because as soon as he kind of, I was like, oh no.
No, Marvel,
I'm with you.
Marvel not like that. Marvel not done like that. They would have an uproar if they killed Tom Hiddleston like that in that show.
In his own show called Loki. Like, yeah.
Exactly.
I'm with you.
It would be hot.
Okay.
Okay.
So my buddy the Goose is actually streaming right now, so I figured this is a good opportunity to go ahead and raid him. He's only got a couple of viewers, so we'll take our couple of viewers and mix them with his couple of viewers, and let's see if that does anything. Looks like he's playing another horror game, so if you don't like horror games, I'd bounce now. Otherwise, we will see you next week for another episode of Loki. Likely a couple more movies, which will be announced throughout the week. Check out the Discord, check out the TikToks. Follow us all on TikTok, Instagram, here on Twitch if you haven't already, and we will see you all next week. Rating now. Oh, not yet. Almost.
Uh-oh.